Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, your cranky and moody, tired midnight blogger who blogs in this case at 8:58 p.m. I am almost certainly not going to make it till midnight, at least not on this stream. My vacation is coming to an end, and I'm kind of sad about that. But it was one of my better ones. I didn't do much, but I hung out with my dog. I antagonized some of my friends. I got to see the woman that I tried to date. I see that there are two people. Now just one. Welcome aboard. Whoever you are welcome. The subject of the day is the spiral of silence. And hello, Sci-Fi Mombi. I am sorry that I missed your stream. Today has just been a kerfluffle of not so great scheduling. People saying hi to each other. That is wonderful. I'm hoping that this is good enough that it's actually worth your time. I don't know. Edgar Allan Poe would say that you got to grab their attention right off the bat. So in order to do that, even though I'm not 8 minutes in, I'm going to promise that this stream includes a nude. Don't be afraid, though. It's not a nude of me. That will never happen. If by some chance it ever did happen, I would just drop off of the face of the earth in shame and grief. And probably a lot of my followers would too. Just putting that out there. I'm going to say hello to the chat because I started early. There aren't many people here. It is my bad. I'm talking about the spiral of silence theory today, which is not to be confused with the sounds of silence. I would like to say hello to JPRPH1, one of the most supportive and kind people I know. I know that your prayers go up for me, and trust me, I need them. He and his friend John Paradise are at a campfire tonight, which is awesome. That's probably where I should be. I hope you are. If you're singing, I hope that everyone is enjoying it. If you're not, I hope you're enjoying the fire. And sadly, yes, I did. There's always somebody streaming something amazing. And Netter is out there streaming Drop Dead Fred. So if any of you find this too boring for you, please go over there. She's a wonderful person. She has wonderful people. And so too does Sci-Fi Mombi. You are much more supportive of me than I deserve. I missed your stream today. It's just, today has been a comedy of errors. So, no, I'm not ending the stream. I'm going to end the music. Yes, if I was smart enough to make you a wrench. I'm not sure that I was. Let me do that. Do. Now, I don't want to remove her. I don't want to hide her. I want to add as a moderator. There we go. I may have to change who I have as managing moderator because for whatever reason, I seem to have scared my managing moderator away. Possibly my bad. See, there's two things going on right now. Netter's Network, Outlaw Bill. I am just a not great scheduling person. And you are very welcome, Sci-Fi Mombi. The conversations that you have, the quality of your streams, absolutely. People You need to check out Sci-Fi Mombi. She's got good stuff. What did I do there? Oh, I see what I did. Yes. So again, the three of you who are here, if you're too bored by my crap, please go and see Netter's Network. But hopefully you're not. So I'm going to start out a little bit differently. One of the things that I like to do is I like to read. And I like to read aloud. And I know that that's kind of weird for people today. I just lost somebody, so probably somebody doesn't want to hear me reading. But that is okay. So I'm going to read a story that is pertinent to this topic of the spiral of silence. And so this may give away what I'm about to read. It is The Emperor's New Clothes. Many years ago, there lived an emperor who was so tremendously fond of stylish new clothes that he used all his money for dressing himself. He didn't care about his soldiers, didn't care about the theater or driving in the park, except to show off his new clothes. He had an outfit for each hour of the day. And as they say about a king that he's in council, here they always said, the emperor's in the dressing room. There were lots of amusements going on in the big city where he lived. Many strangers came every day, and one day 2 swindlers arrived. They said they were weavers and that they could weave the most beautiful material one could imagine. Not only were the colors and patterns unusually lovely, but the clothes sewn from the fabric had a remarkable characteristic. They were invisible to any person who was incompetent in his job or who was simply grossly stupid. And now I'm curious if I would be able to see these clothes. Those would be some wonderful clothes, the emperor thought. By wearing them, I could find out which men in my kingdom aren't fit for their jobs. I do kind of wish our government had something like that. And I'd be able to tell the wise from the stupid. That fabric must be woven into some clothing for me at once. And he gave the 2 swindlers a big deposit so that they could start their work. They set up 2 looms and pretended to work, but they had absolutely nothing on the loom. Right away, they demanded the finest silk and the most splendid gold, and they put these things into their bags and worked on the empty looms long into the night. I would really like to know how far they've come with the material, thought the emperor, but he was a little uneasy with the thought that those who were dumb or not at all fit for their jobs couldn't see it. And I've got to admit, I would be uncomfortable about this too. Of course, he knew very well that he didn't have to worry about himself, though I would admit that I would be worried about myself, but he decided to send someone else first to see how it was going. All the people in town knew about the power of the fabric, and everyone was eager to see how incompetent or stupid his new neighbor was. Because that's what we're all about. We don't care about our own foolishness. We want to see how stupid our neighbor is. I'll send my honest old envoy over to the weavers, the emperor thought. He can best determine how the fabric is turning out because he's smart, and no one is better suited to his job than he is. So the dependable old envoy went to the hall where the 2 swindlers were working on the empty looms. Good Scott, thought the old envoy as his eyes flew wide open. I can't see anything. But he didn't say that. Both the swindlers asked him to come closer and asked him if it wasn't a beautiful pattern and lovely colors. They pointed at the empty loom, and the poor old envoy continued to stare. But he couldn't see anything because nothing was there. Great Scott, he thought. Could it be that I'm stupid? I never thought that. No one must find out. Is it possible I'm not fit for my job? It's just totally impossible to admit that I can't see the fabric. "Well, now, you're not saying anything about it," said the one who was pretending to weave. "Oh, it's beautiful, absolutely too awesome for words," the old envoy said and peered through his glasses. "What a pattern! What colors! Yes, I'll tell the emperor that I like it very much." "We're pleased to hear that," both weavers said. And then they pointed out the strange pattern and the colors by name. The old envoy paid close attention so he could repeat the information when he came back to the emperor. And that's what he did. Then the swindlers demanded more money and more silk and gold. And I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. The story does that tripartite thing where the three people come and don't see anything and wonder if they're stupid. And they all have the same results. They all go back to the emperor. "We saw everything, and it was all wonderful." Finally, the emperor arrives. He wanted to see the fabric while it was still on the loom. With a large group of selected advisors, among them the two who had already been there, I guess there'd just been one more. He went off to see the clever crooks who were weaving with every fiber of their being, but without a thread on the loom. "Isn't it magnifique?" asked both of the wise old officials. "Look at the pattern, Your Majesty, and the colors." And they pointed at the empty loom because they thought the others could see the fabric. "What?" thought the emperor. "I don't see a thing. This is dreadful. Am I stupid? Am I not fit to be emperor? This is the most terrible thing that could happen to me." "Oh, it's just splendid," said the emperor. "It has my highest approval." And he nodded contentedly as he observed the empty loom, for he didn't want to say that he couldn't see anything. The whole group that accompanied him looked and looked, but didn't get anything more out of it than any of the others. So they echoed the emperor. One of the reasons why I'm sharing this is it's always too easy to get into an echo chamber. It's one of the things that I've often been afraid of as far as picking a side, and then you accumulate the people around you that agree, but then you end up not hearing anything different. And hello, DJ Ronnie G. Thank you for showing up. You also have some wonderful content on your channel. Thank you for being here. I'm talking about the spiral of silence theory, and in my vague effort at making it entertaining, I'm reading The Emperor's New Clothes because I think that it puts it into perspective a little bit better than some of the boring, pedantic stuff that I'm going to be sharing later. And by boring and pedantic, I mean incredibly informative and excessively entertaining. The emperor is wearing clothes. Take that back. The emperor gave each of the swindlers a knight's cross to hang on his chest and the title of Knight of the Loom. The entire night before the parade, the swindlers sat illuminated by a flood of light from more than 16 candles. People could see that they were busy getting the emperor's new clothes ready. They pretended to take the fabric from the loom and cut it into thin air with huge scissors. They sewed with threadless needles, and at last they said, "There, now the clothes are finished." The emperor came to them with his most distinguished cavaliers. Both swindlers lifted one arm in the air as if they were holding something and said, "See, here are the pants. Here's the jacket. Here's the cape." They continued on and on. "They are as light as cobwebs. You might think you weren't wearing anything, but that's the beauty of this fabric." "Yes," said all the cavaliers, but they couldn't see a thing, for there wasn't anything to see. "Now, if your royal majesty would be so kind as to remove your clothes," said the swindler. Boom, chicka, wow, wow. "We'll put the new ones on right here in front of this big mirror." Oh, I'm glad it's him and not me. The emperor laid aside his clothes, and the swindlers acted as if they gave him each piece of the new outfit they had sewed. And the emperor turned and twisted in front of the mirror. "Lord, how good that looks on you! How beautifully it fits," they all said. What a pattern! What lovely colors! What a precious outfit it is! They're waiting outside with the canopy that will be carried over the throne in the parade, said the master of ceremonies. Well, I'm ready, said the emperor. Doesn't it fit beautifully? And he danced in front of the mirror one more time. Actually, it says pirouetted, but I can never trust myself to get that word out correctly. He was pretending to admire his splendid outfit. The chamberlains who were to carry the train of the cape fumbled around on the floor as if they were lifting up the train. They walked carrying their arms in the air and didn't dare act as if they saw nothing. So I promised a nude at the beginning of the stream. Well, here it is. The emperor in all of his glory, in all of the clothes that were so well made for him. DJ Ronnie G is chilling on the eve of your first day back at work. Oh, I'm sorry you have to work Sunday, but the eve of. Yeah, anyway, either way, I hope that your job is cool. I'm not looking forward to going back to mine, but if anyone from my job is listening, I love my job, and it is the best thing that I have ever done in my entire life. Okay. DJ Ronnie G, might take a bike ride before you wind down. That's actually a great idea. I know I need to get more exercise. I don't look as good as the Emperor nude, sadly. Yeah, I said it out loud. And then I wonder why I don't have more followers. The emperor paraded around the lovely canopy. All the people in the streets and in the windows said, "Good Lord, how awesome the emperor's new clothes are. What a splendid train he has on his cape. How beautifully it fits." None of the people would admit that they didn't see anything, because then they wouldn't be fit for their jobs. And they'd be called terribly stupid. None of the emperor's clothes had been so admired before. "But he isn't wearing anything at all," said a little child. "Hush, child, listen to the voice of innocence," his father said, and each person whispered to the other what the child had said. "But he isn't wearing anything at all," everyone shouted at last. The emperor shuddered because he was afraid they were right, but he thought, "I have to finish the parade," and the chamberlains walked on, carrying the train that wasn't there. There it is, an Enigma Severus. My brain is a spiral of silence. How do you know what's in my demented mind? No, it's great. It's good to see you. Welcome to the insanity that is Tired Blogging. I hope you're having a good weekend as well. Sci-Fi Mommy, says DJ Ronnie G. So, why is your tired blogger thrusting nudes at you and reading fairy tales by Hans Christian Andersen? Well, I'll tell you. Because I'm on vacation and lazy, I didn't get into the research for the Holodomoro, Walter Duranty, all that stuff. And I was thinking, what in the world am I going to talk about? I need to talk about something. I need to be consistent. And so, as I often do, I go into my analytics and I try to figure out how people are finding me. And it turns out that people are searching for Spiral of Silence, and they're getting my channel. I don't know why. Actually, I kind of do, but I haven't actually talked about the Spiral of Silence because in my ignorance, I didn't know what it was. So I've done a little bit of research, and now I know a little bit about what it is, but likely you know as much or more, but hopefully you don't, so that it will be a learning experience for us all. The Spiral of Silence. It is a theory in the study of human communication and public opinion, the theory that people's willingness to express their opinions on controversial public issues is affected by their largely unconscious perception of those opinions as being either popular or unpopular. And now I'm hearing the Wicked Witch singing about how popular she is. Specifically, the perception that one's opinion is unpopular tends to inhibit or discourage one's expression of it, while the perception that it is popular tends to have the opposite effect. Developed by German survey and communication researcher Elisabeth Noelle-Neumann in the 60s and 70s, the spiral of silence theory more broadly attempts to describe collective opinion formation and societal decision-making regarding issues that are controversial or morally loaded. And no, I haven't had a drink yet, though I may before this is over. I am not loaded. Take it back. In the context of the theory, the term public opinion refers to opinions or behavior that can be displayed or expressed in public without running the risk of social isolation, or in some cases that even must be displayed to avoid the danger of isolation. I can't help but point out we're social animals. I know some of you probably don't like it when I talk about evolution, but I think we evolved or were created, or however you want to put it, to basically team up with other humans and fight to carve up the mammoth or protect us from the cave bear or whatever the heck. Being isolated in prehistory literally could mean you were gone. You were unalived. I hate that YouTube censors some words. It's really scary. It's really frightening for all of us. Some of the oppressed classes. That's been a big part of the pain of those experiences. Our group has been isolated from the bigger group. Now, sometimes that just descends into a victim story, but there's also legitimate things there that we all need to think about. Anyway, public opinion, it's not meant in a legal or political sense necessarily as something that is freely accessible to all and that concerns the general population or society as a whole. Instead, the concept is interpreted from a social psychological perspective as a state of consciousness. It's not an altered state of consciousness necessarily. Maybe it is. In which individuals are aware that their actions are seen by all or heard by all, requiring that they constantly monitor not only their own actions, but also the reactions of others in their environment. Accordingly, Noelle-Neumann viewed public opinion as a form of social control that ultimately applies to everyone, regardless of social class, and that it is apparent in many areas of life, ranging from controversial political issues to fashion, morals, and values. Such an understanding of public opinion differs markedly from the traditional concept, according to which most people's opinions on public issues are influenced by rational debate among educated elites. Now, I know I've got very intelligent people in this chat and in this community, but I think most of us can agree that that really isn't the way most of us, even the best of us, act. We're rarely looking up, I do it on my pedantic blog, but we're rarely looking up, what does Kierkegaard say about this? If you're very lucky on a good day, I might look up what does C.S. Lewis think about it. But by and large, even I, at my best of times, I'm often listening to my friends, for good or ill. And it's often very difficult to admit, I don't agree with my friends on this point, or I don't agree with the online community on that point. But one of the things that I've loved about the community is I've found that there's a lot more people who agree with me about a lot more things than I had previously thought. So I guess I'm an example of the reverse of it. Origins of the theory. The theory of the spiral of silence arose from a surprising discovery in connection with election research conducted during the 1965 federal election campaign. You did not know when you tuned into this, you were going to get fascinating history about German politics. Oh yeah, you weren't feeling well, if I remember right, Sci-Fi Mombi. Are you doing okay? Please let me know. And let me know if, I realize I'm out here just spouting a bunch of pedantic stuff, but let me know if there's anything reasonable that I'm able to do for you. Months before Election Day in September 1965, Noelle Newman and her staff at the Allensbach Institute for Public Opinion Research launched a series of surveys designed to track the political opinions of the electorate throughout the campaign. And I suppose that's why people are searching for this after all. We've got the election going on. I don't want to step on any toes at this point. I think most of you kind of know what I think, but I want different views to be welcome on this channel. Okay, very good. Very good. I'm glad that you're doing better. Very glad that you're doing better, Sci-Fi Mommy. From December 1964 to shortly before Election Day, survey findings on voters' intentions remained practically unchanged. Month after month, the two major parties, the governing Christian Democratic Union and the opposing Social Democratic Party of Germany, were in a dead heat, with about 45% of the population intending to vote for each party. Under such circumstances, it seemed impossible to predict which party was most likely to win the election. I think that might sound familiar because one day one person's up, and then the next day, or the next week anyway, the other person's up, and it just drives me nuts. In the final few weeks of the campaign, however, the situation suddenly changed, with survey findings showing a last-minute swing in the favor of the Christian Democratic Union. The percentage of respondents who said that they intended to vote for the Christian Democratic Union suddenly climbed to almost 50%, while the share that intended to vote for the Social Democratic Party of Germany dropped to less than 40%. In the end, the results of the election confirmed those findings. The CDU won with 48% of the vote, as against 39% for the SDP. Interestingly, while voters' intentions remained unchanged over the course of many months, their expectations regarding the outcome of the election shifted dramatically during the same period. In December 1964, the percentage of respondents who expected the SDP to win was about the same as the share who anticipated a CDU victory. But when the results began to change, the percentage of respondents who expected a CDU victory rose continuously, while the SDP lost ground. By as early as July 1965, the SDU was clearly in the lead regarding voters' expectations. By August, almost 50% expected that it would win. Late in the campaign, the bandwagon effect came into play as a sizable number of former SDP supporters or undecided voters cast their ballots for the party they expected to be victorious. How could party strength have remained constant for so long, while expectations as to who would win changed so dramatically? Noelle Newman suspected that a visit by Queen Elizabeth II to Germany in May 1965, during which she often accompanied the Christian Democratic German Chancellor Ludwig Erhard, may have created an optimistic mood among supporters of the CDU, prompting them to publicly proclaim their political convictions. In other words, it suddenly became safe to say, hey, I want to vote for these people. And so they did say it. And then that made other people think, oh, hey, other people are going to do this, and I was going to do that too. Let's hop on the bandwagon. As a result, supporters of the SDP may have wrongly concluded that their opponents' opinions were more popular than their own, and that therefore the CDU would win. SDP supporters were accordingly discouraged from publicly articulating their own views, reinforcing the impression that the CDU is more popular and more likely to be victorious. According to the spiral of silence theory, most people have a natural and mostly unconscious fear of social isolation that prompts them to constantly monitor the behavior of others for signs of approval or disapproval. People also issue their own threats of isolation, mostly unconsciously, through behavior such as criticizing someone, turning away from someone, scowling at someone, laughing at someone, and so on. I've seen this both on the left and the right. I have my bias, and at the end of the stream, if people are interested, I may talk about that bias, but I want to hold that off as long as I can, because I don't want this to be, pro or anti-Trump or pro or anti-Kamala, at least until the very end. And I more or less want the community to let me know if that's what they're interested in by then, or if they'd rather talk about something else at the end of the stream. I have an alternate topic to end it with if y'all are not interested in that. Hail Tim, and I know you're probably in 2 streams. I thank you very much for being here. I will totally understand if you're only kind of half listening and half watching Drop Dead Fred. So thank you very much. You're very kind. As some of you probably know, I've had my own kind of journey of political thought. I've gone from one side kind of a little bit toward the other and then kind of back again. And the whole reason I'm bringing this up is, frankly, I'm a contrarian. If you threaten me with isolation, I will probably say good riddance. I don't mean to sound tougher than I am. I know that I have some limits to that strength, and that if I get lonely and isolated enough, I will eventually cave. But I tend to actually get driven to the other side if I feel threatened by an unwillingness to disagree. Now, don't get me wrong. I totally am okay with the whole concept of, I agree with you 80%. We disagree on this 20%. Let's focus on that 80%. What's driven me where I'm at is not necessarily the national, but the attitudes of a lot of my personal friends, that you've got to agree 100%. You can't misalign on any tiny point, or you're the bad person. And I've grown to resent that. And now here I am hopping up and down about the things that I hop up and down about. Probably and likely unfairly to my friends, but here I am. Conversely, those who sense that their opinions will meet with approval tend to voice them fearlessly and at times vociferously. Now, I am sadly a perfect example of this. I have grown much more willing to throw out my view out here online because, again, there are people who actually agree with me. And so it's like, oh, hey, they agree with me. I'm going to say stuff. And by and large, that's been a positive experience here. Whereas with my friends, it's been kind of a negative experience. So part of it is probably just I need to be more courageous, but part of it is being naturally human. I don't like to go up to 5 or 6 of my friends and say, hey, you guys are full of shit on this topic. You may be completely right about those other 80%. You're full of shit on this one. But then, again, human, I go on here on the community and, hey, we think this. And I'm like, I kind of think that too. And so here I've been much more courageous because I fear less of the rejection. Conversely, those who sense their opinions will meet with approval tend to voice them fearlessly. Indeed, speaking out in such a way tends to enhance the threat of isolation faced by supporters of the opposing position, reinforcing their sense of being alone. And this is actually something that's concerned me on my own channel and really all the others, but I can't control the others. So, it's none of my business to say, hey, Troy, I disagreed with you 2% on that one thing you said. That was bad. You shouldn't have said that. On my channel, though, I want to at least try to be fair. Likely I won't be, but I like to at least try to be. I want this to be a safe place where people can come on and within respectful tones can say, hey, Curtis, no, I don't actually think that. I think this, I think that. And instead of beating each other up, hopefully we can talk it out. A spiraling process begins. That's why it's called the spiral of silence. The dominant camp becoming ever louder and more self-confident, while the other camp becomes increasingly silent. Importantly, the spiral of silence occurs only in connection with controversial issues that have a strong moral component. I found this interesting. Even though it's contradicting what I just said, as far as, I feel like I can't disagree on minor points. The theory says that we can disagree on minor points, but those strong moral components, I don't know if I have a good example, but let's try to come up with something a little bit neutral-ish. Okay. Let's say that I think that tariffs are immoral. I don't, but let's use that just as an example. And you're basically robbing the other countries when you come up with tariffs. And all these damn tariff people, they're what's wrong with the country. And it's going to depend. If my circle of friends or if the media or whatever has decided that no, in fact, tariffs are wonderful and our allies love them and they love paying those tariffs, then I'm going to be very quiet. I'm not going to say much about thinking that tariffs are horrible. But on the other hand, obviously, if everyone else thinks it's wonderful, then I'm going, oh, yes, tariffs are the most wonderful thing ever. Later on, I'm going to point out that a lot of this stuff shifts over time, and it's one of the reasons why we need to be studying history, because what one time we'll see as self-evident, another one we'll see as ludicrous and laughable, and you kind of have to look at it from the perspective of distance to have any objectivity about it at all. And of course, almost nobody is objective about their own times. Oh yeah, no, that's okay, Enigma. You do what you do. I'm just glad you're here. Hopefully it's worth your time. Sashi, the man from the future, is calling me out for saying the T word. Hey, if you play this later, you will learn that I have scandalously posted a nude on the channel. Oh, I'm such a terrible person. Okay. The spiral of silence, what triggers a person's fear of isolation is the belief that others will consider him or her not merely mistaken, but morally bad. I know that in my circle of friends, it had become, and frankly, I don't even talk about it anymore, but it had become a very uncomfortable topic when I said who I had voted for. Now, later I changed my mind, and I did not vote for that person later, but it wasn't just simply that I'd made an honest intellectual mistake. It really felt like I was being told I was a bad person. And to quote a friend, I was part of the problem. I hope you will understand why I'm a little bit moody about that, even to this day. Sashi is saying to say hello to the FBI for me. I think the FBI is going to be too bored with this one. I'm not going to get to the scandalous stuff till the end. School has kept you busy. Yeah, and I've also not been texting much, not because I don't like you guys, but because I've been in a weird, moody place myself. And I'm really trying hard not to spread that. Although that's the second topic. If you guys don't want to talk about my personal bias ideas, we can talk about how I was very moody with one of my friends today. That's up to you guys, whichever you think is the more interesting topic. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Accordingly, issues that lack a moral component or on which there's general consensus leave no room for a spiral of silence. Now, this doesn't come from my research. This is coming from me just having a probable brain glitch, but I am wondering if it is possible to basically invent a moral component where maybe there wasn't one before. I haven't thought this through, and it may not end up being a good idea, but I've just been curious since I've been researching this. Is it possible to take an issue that before had not had a moral relevancy and make it such? There are some reasons why I'm thinking about it, but I haven't thought about it enough in a concrete fashion to go too deeply into it. Sashi, that's exactly what I'm saying. I don't have friends anymore. I've been pissing them all off with my moodiness. So there it is. All right. As demonstrated by the 1965 German federal election and other examples, the actual popularity of an opinion does not necessarily determine whether it will eventually predominate over opposing views. So I know this is charged, but I know that the figures are different than this, but let's just say for argument's sake, and because I'm trying not to choose a side, at least till the end of the post, so that people who don't want to hear it can get the good information and then go away. Let's say that 40% of people support Kamala, and let's say that 40% support Trump. But it isn't going to be those numbers that determine it. And I'm not saying this for any particular agenda. I'm just saying that this is what the theory supports. Is it's going to be one, who is the loudest, and then we wonder how we've gotten where we're at. I mean, think about that. And number two, which one perceives itself to be the biggest and the most morally correct. That's ignoring, if we take out all the talk about, fixing elections, that is what this theory says will be the most important factor in who actually ends up winning. An opinion can be dominant in public discourse even if a majority of the population actually disagrees with it, provided that most people falsely believe that the view is unpopular and refrain from expressing it for fear of being isolated. Now, I know before I had my shift, and frankly, before I got into this community, I felt that my views were very much the minority. I felt that my views were very much considered to be the morally wrong and quote unquote bad ideas. And so That's one of the reasons why I've been so equivocal, and it's also one of the reasons why I've done so much soul searching, because if I am in fact bad, well, then that's on me. I need to fix that. It's not my friend's fault. But if my friends just simply have a difference of opinion, but they're believing that it is a moral superiority, that's no longer on me. That's actually on them. And it's on me to be courageous enough to actually figure out what the real truth is and stand by it to the best of my ability. There we go. Gorilla's random thoughts. I thought your thoughts were supposed to be censored. I don't get it. YouTube is not doing its job. He's telling me to keep it down. I'm trying to sleep. Well, don't worry. I will probably put you to sleep with this fascinating topic. I'm talking about the theory of the spiral of silence, which basically I decided to talk about it because people who are searching for it are finding my channel, and God help them. I figure I might as well at least have something for them to actually find out about the topic. If they're coming here for the answer, I should do my best to provide it. But I'm going to admit, this isn't exactly something that I looked at and thought, oh my gosh, people are going to be excited about that. But it has interested me, so hopefully I make it interesting to you. Public opinion is limited by time and place. We talked a little bit about that before. With few exceptions, a spiral of silence holds sway over only a single society. Now, I wonder how much globalism interferes with that, but that may be muddying the waters too much. But it holds sway only over a single society for a limited period. I think we can all think of examples of things that were considered morally acceptable in one time and one place and are completely not held to be acceptable in our current time and place. Sashi will not keep it down. He cannot be silenced. He's a professional troll and he will never compromise. Hey, you're paid to troll? Let me in on the secret. I'll happily do some trolling for a little bit of cash. I work pretty cheap, as most of the people who have employed me can attest to. When viewed in hindsight or from an outsider's perspective, and that's why I love having Sashi in here. And also, I'm loving having Sci-Fi Mombi here because I don't know that she's like drastically different than the rest of the community, but I think she's just different enough that she can give a better, maybe not a better, but a different perspective, which can be better in a lot of cases. When viewed in hindsight, it is sometimes hard to comprehend the agitation and emotional fervor that can accompany a spiral of silence. Now, I love that they bring that up because a lot of the things that upset my friends, it's hard for me to understand what the hell are you so upset about? But then today, a friend of mine sent me a text and I just kind of went off. Now, part of me wants to apologize about it, and part of me is like, I've been keeping quiet for so long. Why bother? Likely both of those are incorrect opinions. Let me know what you think. But I will almost guarantee that my friend is like, why the hell did that set him off? And I know at least one of you in the chat has had that experience with me. So I'm absolutely far from perfect. Fluff Chick Productions, hail, thank you for showing up here. I know you were likely mostly focusing on Netter's movie Drop Dead Fred, and that is awesome. Thank you for showing up for a bit and for giving the comment. I love the support that you give. If I had really thought about it, I would have rescheduled this. By the time I remembered, oh, hey, she's doing that, by then it was kind of too late, so I just started early instead. I mean, Sashi, I mean, that's a little bit dramatic, but it's basically true. I was triggered. And again, I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Do you want me to talk about the things that I feel have been part of the spiral of silence? Or do you guys want me to talk about this weird triggering event that I think pertains to that spiral of silence? I'm not going to talk about both, but I'm happy to end this stream with one of those topics. I will warn you, one is longer than the other. So if you want me to shut the heck up, you want to pick the lesser of the two evils. I did something that I almost never do with this. I looked up what the AI from Britannica, which was the source for that theory, what are practical applications of the spiral of silence theory? I won't read the paragraph because it basically just reiterates what they said, but the practical applications, according to their AI, modern media and communication, the theory is applied to understand how media coverage can influence public opinion by amplifying certain viewpoints and marginalizing others. Again, happens on both the left and the right. I can give examples if you want of the left doing it, but I think I've talked enough about that it doesn't much need repeating. But I know on the right, within our own community, there's this massive not happiness with The Acolyte, with the show The Acolyte. I have no dog in that fight because I haven't watched it. I would literally be disingenuous to pick a side in that debate. I need to at least watch an episode before I take a stance on that. The reason I'm bringing it up, though, is there's a member of the community who is staunchly pro Acolyte. He's very upset that they're canceling it. He really loved the show. He gave reasons that to someone like me who hasn't watched it, they sounded cogent and intelligent. And the community blasted him for it. Now, I'm going to be totally fair and transparent. Basically, the community did to him what I did to my friend. So I don't want to be too self-righteous here. But I'm just saying that I know that that's how he felt. He felt isolated. He felt alone. He felt like, why the hell is this a big deal? And I comforted him, and then I haven't hardly talked to him for a while because I'm like kind of a jerk. Oh, yeah, darn it. And yeah, the Muppet Show, I missed it. I did a terrible job scheduling today. Sashi, I'm at the point where I just let everything slide. Most are past the point of discourse. Yeah. No, you're not wrong. Social media has reinforced their beliefs. They won't see your point of view. And paradoxically, I guess that's why I'm now willing to talk about it. Before, I was silent, partly out of fear, but partly because I was like, they're the ones who are likely right. Why should I bother with it? And now I feel like I have just as much of a likelihood of being right as they are, and know they're not going to listen, but I'll get it off of my damn chest. And so hopefully there won't be many conversations where we're just talking and all of a sudden you say something and Curtis is yelling and screaming at you. It doesn't happen often, but twice in my life it has. I won't talk about what the discussion was about because it would make more sense to you if you understood the context. But that's not to defend myself. I still should have had the strength and capacity to not go off on someone. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. The Muppet Show was just so fun. That's what I really need here. I need the Muppets giving this presentation. Modern media and communication. Yay! They could create a perception of consensus or dissent. Social media platforms. On social media, which honestly, my example probably would have done better on this. Users may refrain from sharing controversial opinions if they perceive them as unpopular, leading to echo chambers where only dominant views are expressed. This can reinforce the spiral of silence as users align with perceived majority opinions to avoid backlash. And that's exactly where I was until about a month or two ago. I only share my political views. I share them I share them on this post, on this blog, but I try not to completely beat you over the head with them. But as far as social media, I only share my political thoughts on X. And that is because, at least since Musk has taken it over, whether you like him or not, I have literally not been censored on X since he's taken over. Now, I do try to be careful. I try not to share anything that's completely, and obviously goofy, but I'm actually willing to share what I think over there. I may be wrong, but I have yet to have X just take something down and say, no, you're wrong. Sashi, I decided long ago I was going to always stop and take a step back and look back at my decisions just to make sure I don't get set in my ways. There's always a possibility I'm wrong. Exactly. And it's a part of what this blog is all about. That may not be fascinating, but I'm trying to figure out, where have I been wrong? Where have I been right? How can I do right better? How can I do wrong less? The sharing of controversial opinions only if they are perceived as popular reinforces the spiral of silence as users align with perceived majority opinions to avoid backlash. Political discourse and public opinion. In politics, the spiral of silence can impact election outcomes, as seen in the 1965 German federal election. Voters may shift their support to parties they perceive as likely winners. I don't know if you notice, but quite often, both Kamala and Trump do this. My polls show that I'm winning. And I know, again, we all have our bias. I have my bias. I've spoken my bias. But let's be intellectually honest. Very likely, both of those polls are at least a little bit full of shit. Because it just fascinates me that your side saying you're winning isn't that interesting. And who the hell knows what it really is. Now, I know people now probably barrage me. Well, this poll is accurate. That poll is accurate. And that's okay if you do. I think it's interesting how quite often, one of the reasons why I love RFK is he actually admitted, hey, look, my polls are no longer saying I'm going to win. I've almost never heard somebody say that until the very, very end. And to be fair, I guess that's what he did too. But I still like him. So bite me if you don't. Political discourse and public opinion. In politics, spiral of silence can impact election outcomes, as seen in the German election. Number 4 is cultural norms and societal behaviors. The theory helps explain how cultural norms and societal behaviors are shaped as individuals conform to perceived majority views to avoid social isolation, reinforcing dominant cultural narratives. Sci-Fi Mombi. I've had to do that as well. Oh, I don't care what you found on the web, Siri. Before I fire something off, which I have a huge big mouth.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Oh, you're going to make me shut you off, aren't you? And I really don't want to, but I probably should have done it before. Come on, shut off. There we go. If anyone's trying to call me, too bad. Anyway, yeah, I think about it and then I respond. And 9 times out of 10, I do as well. This morning, I did think about it, but I didn't think about it for as long as I usually do. We'll leave it that way. Were you censored again? Gorilla, I'm so sorry. I hate that. I literally hate censorship. It is my big bogey. And again, while I feel one side does it more than the other, let's be intellectually honest, both sides have done it at times. Siri does have a big mouth, and yet she still won't go out with me. Yeah, I said it. Gorilla's random thoughts. I'll be back. Gotta go. Oh, I'm not sure how to respond to that. I'm hoping that's a joke. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I'm worried about you. It's the FBI, Curtis. They're on your phone. I don't doubt it. He's talking about Spiralos Highlands theory. We must get him. He supports one side over the other. We shall get him. All right. Going to do a little bit more reading, then I'm going to share some video stuff. I got a couple of videos. They're not very long that I wanted to share about the Spiral of Silence. And then we will talk about the final topic, which will be either things that I feel are an example, and they are biased. They're totally biased. So again, I can understand if you don't want to actually sit and listen to that last part. Or if you would rather talk about me being mean and feisty to my friend and how it does relate to this, although in a kind of a petty way. It's not the FBI, says Gorilla. Tasashi, it's the NHS. And yeah, I thought it was a joke, but I was just nervous enough because, you know, my life's been weird. All kinds of stuff happens. Go to sleep, Enigma Severus. I know that you work for a living. You have one of the hardest jobs as a teacher. Sadly, I would actually kind of like to do it someday. Or there's 3 things I want to do. I either want to write or YouTube or teach. And this is as close to that as I've ever come. Enigma Severus, see you guys. Don't get arrested while I sleep. I won't be able to bail you out till Tuesday. I can maybe bail myself out as long as it's a reasonable amount. That's about all I'm good for. So everyone's saying good night. Wunderbar! We have wonderful, kind people in the community. Huzzah. All right. So I thought I would actually go to Noelle Newman's, Elizabeth Noelle Newman's website. Everybody has a website. And share what she has to say about it, just to be pedantic and to at least be somewhat thorough. Her name is closely connected to the Spiral of Silence. It's a theory that reverberated far beyond the scientific community, even though I had not heard of it. I guess I've been in a cave. Anchored in social psychology. I love the other thing I love about the site is they give all the sources at the end. So I won't read them, but if you want to go to this site, she actually cites all this stuff. The theory explains how sways in public opinion may come about, especially in morally and emotionally laden debates. I'm sure you've all noticed on both sides, there's a ton of emotion. I know one of my friends, Codis Fact Search, he hates that there's so much emotion, and I don't hate it probably to the extent he does, but I do hate it as well. I wish we could have a logical-ish debate. I don't I know you can't take emotion altogether out of it. The three pillars of rhetoric were ethos, pathos, logos. But I've always felt that we needed more logic and less pathos. And we just don't seem to get it. Sasha, you guys get bailed out over here. If someone disappears, it's probably the cops. I live in the South. That happens. I'm just saying. Just a shout out to the NSA agent monitoring this blog. I don't really know any details. I have just heard rumors. But yeah, crazy crap happens. All right. So, possibly because Noel Newman's assumptions about the social influences on human behavior are controversial and contradict widely held views of the rational, autonomous individual. Oh, God bless these naive people. The spiral of silence counts among the most cited and replicated theories in social sciences. I guess I'm just behind the times. I guess I need to be reading more social science. The theory of the spiral of silence can be broken down into the following core hypotheses. Most people are afraid of social isolation. Therefore, people constantly observe other people's behavior in order to find out which opinions and behaviors are met with approval or rejection in the public sphere. People exert isolation pressure on other people. For instance, by frowning or turning away when somebody says or does something that is rejected by public opinion. Little Johnny really shouldn't be playing with himself in the corner. You know, that kind of stuff. People tend to hide their opinion away when they think that they would expose themselves, there's little Johnny again, to isolation pressure with their opinion. People who feel public support, in contrast, tend to express their opinion loud and clear. Loud opinion expressions on the one side and silence on the other side sets the spiral of silence into motion. Again, reference back. It's the loudest people. And look who we've got. We've got Trump on the one side. And I have my bias, but I'm going to tell you, I agree that sometimes he's just too damn loud. In fact, most of the time, he's just too damn loud. And the other side, I'm not saying Kamala's loud, but you got, please, let's be intellectually honest, you got some loudmouths on the other side, too. Frankly, I think there'd be so much less hate if some of these people on both sides would sometimes shut the fuck up. But here I am not shutting the fuck up. So, the process is typically ignited by emotionally and morally laden issues. In case of consensus on an issue in a given society, it is unlikely that a spiral of silence will be set in motion. The spiral is usually elicited by controversial issues. So hopefully this won't be controversial. Slavery. I think our society is very nearly universally against slavery. I know you've got that 1 or 2% of, people who I have nothing but contempt for, but I'm pretty sure that likely somewhere between 95 and 98% of people are vociferously against slavery. So while that's a hot button topic for me, it's not really a hot button topic for society. What's a hot button topic for society is where you've got 40% or 50% on one side and 40% or 50% on the other, such as, again, not meaning to be horrible, but abortion is one of these topics. I mean, there's hundreds of them, but what do we want to do with taxation? How do we want to handle insurance, taxes, stuff like that, where there's a big divide. In case of consensus on an issue in a given society, it is unlikely that the spiral will be set in motion. The actual number of partisans of an opinion, and ironically, it just hit me, it's probably, that almost makes it less dangerous to actually be a believer in slavery because the thing's not ignited than it is to believe one way or the other about abortion. Maybe I'm misreading it, but that thought just popped into my pointy little mind. In case of consensus, it's unlikely the actual number of partisans of an opinion is not necessarily decisive for their weight in the spiral of silence. The opinion of a minority may actually be perceived as a majority in the public sphere. Their partisans act assertively enough and publicly defend their opinion with emphasis. Now, that's where that moral majority, whether you believe it exists or not, but that's where that thought comes from. You know, we actually are the majority. It's just that we're not loud. We're not vociferous. That may or may not be true, but that's an example of that thought. Sci-Fi Mommy, there were Trump supporters out today displaying the Tennessee battle flag on the back of their trucks today. Yeah, well, yeah, there's lots of interesting things going about. And again, I have my bias, but I'm not going to shout you down. There's definitely a lot of people on the right who sometimes just embarrass the hell out of me, and same on the left. You know, sometimes when I do espouse a more leftist position, as an example, I'm not one of these right wingers who is like, those darn gays, we've got to get rid of all them darn gays. They're bad and terrible people. I don't know that I'm exactly a left winger on that issue, but I don't, you know, my basic philosophy is, if you're not hurting me, I do what you want to do. You know, sometimes I do get tired of some people on the right constantly harping about that. But then I also do sometimes see people on the left who I'm like, and I'm not meaning to be horrible, but sometimes I'm like, oh crap, you're just making the stereotypes look like they're valid. Oh geez, please, the LGBTQ doesn't need you being that way. But that's just my opinion, and hopefully I haven't opened a can of worms and made everybody mad. But if I have, I have. The opinion of a minority may actually be perceived as the majority if their partisans act assertively enough and publicly defend their opinion with emphasis. Mass media may have a decisive influence on the formation of public opinion if the media repeatedly, in a cumulative way and concordantly in a consonant way, support one side in a public controversy. The side will stand a significantly higher chance of finishing the spiral of silence process as winner. Yeah, no, thank you, Sci-Fi Mombi, for your kindness. I know what you mean. That's why I stay out of politics and religion on my channel. I probably should. I really probably should. But part of my internal journey has been, I feel like I've been silenced for so long, and there's literally nobody in this community who I could point to and say that they're guilty of ever silencing me. But the life I've lived, some of the things I've gone through, yada yada yada. I don't want to sound like a whiner, and so I've gotten to where I feel the need to talk, if only to get it off of my chest. And of course, you know, as you know, you talk about the political, and you're almost guaranteed that you're alienating somebody. And granted, there may be that one person in 5 or one person in 10 or whatever it is that kind of deserves to be isolated. But I think we have to be careful of arrogance and in ourselves. And sadly, it's too easy to see it in our friend and our political opponent and not, you know, be blind to it in ourselves. So anyway, I don't know if that helps. but there it is. Fear of and threat with social isolation operates subconsciously. Most people do not consciously think about how their behavior is oriented by public opinion. Public opinion is limited in time and space. Wherever people live together in societies, public opinion will function as a mechanism of social control. However, what specifically public opinion approves or rejects will change with time and differ from place to place. Public opinion stabilizes and integrates society because conflicts will be resolved through spirals of silence in favor of one opinion. Basically, eventually, whether it's through the strength of the idea or just the strength of the community, one of the ideas eventually becomes the societal norm. This is what is referred to as the integration function of public opinion. And here you see she wrote her first book in 1974, wrote another one in 1980, and followed with an edition in English in 1984. So there it is. There's the pedantic side of the spiral of silence. So I've got 2 videos. Hopefully you've got the patience to let me play some of that and comment on some of that so that you can have more than just my droning on about the spiral of silence theory. Here we have 5M's TV. Don't have a lot of people or a lot of subscribers, but to me, this was one of the better videos that explained it without being too annoying, too pedantic, or having too much of a political stance.
Spiral of silence theory, proposed by German political scientist Elisabeth Noelle Neumann in 1974, delves into the intricate dynamics of public opinion formation and expression, rooted in political science and mass communication. This theory posits that an individual's willingness to voice their opinions is influenced by their perception of the prevailing public sentiment. The theory emerged from Noelle Neumann's insightful
and I'll pause it there so that we can take a look at this graphic. Basically, the fear of isolation pulls us downward on the spiral. At the top, you have the willingness to speak out because you're in your echo chamber, and that happens on both sides too. You know, you have the group of people that are listening mostly to CNN, and this is the right way, this is the only way. And then you have the people mostly listening to Fox. This is the right way, this is the only way. But I have noticed from my own behavior that when I go from one group to the other, my willingness to speak out shifts. And I have to be very careful not to become a freaking chameleon and not, while not being rude, not to also be a little bit true to what I actually believe. Sometimes it's tough. Here you see the tired blogger, the person with the unpopular opinion. It seems like I'm always finding opinions that piss off one side or the other, or both. I've found myself quite capable of doing that. And so here you have someone who is basically me in the past, or maybe someone smarter than me, who's just like, I don't want to make everyone around me upset. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And as we pointed out, sometimes I think that's okay. Sometimes we probably should shut our mouths, or sometimes we wish other people would shut our mouths. And see, look, you probably can see right here, Sci-Fi Mommy Studios, The Muppet Show. I was researching this. I could have been watching The Muppet Show. I've got to do better at figuring out when people are doing stuff.
Analysis during the 1965 German federal election campaign, revealing a surprising shift in voter intentions and the impact of external factors like media coverage and social dynamics. The crux of the spiral of silence theory lies in the...
All right, I want to comment on Sashi. I did not know Singaporeans are crossing the border to Malaysia just to let loose. Interesting. I did not know anything about that. And I want to comment on this graphic. Society threatens deviant individuals with isolation. And of course, as we all know, none of us wants to be deviant, but at the same time, what the definition of a deviant is for good or ill, it shifts. And that doesn't mean that I believe in a moral relativism. I really don't. But I also acknowledge that if you look at a society, let's say, the Mayan Indians, say, in the 12th or 11th century, they had fairly different ideas. Now, in general, I think people are people. Every society has rules for how we're treating each other, who gets to have what property, who gets to sleep with what person, who has the, whether it's right to take a life and in what circumstances. All societies have that. Now, they vary, and none of us are going to agree perfectly on all of those points, if any of them. Individuals experience fear of isolation continuously. We all would like to think that if we were those Mayan Indians, or maybe not Mayans, but basically if we were part of one of those tribes that committed human sacrifice, well, I would be the one who would not believe in that. I would be the one who would speak out against that. And I would be so cool, I would convince them to stop. Well, the truth is, probably not. If you lived in that society and you were raised and taught and nurtured in it, you would probably also see it as the way things ought to be. Even chewing gum is banned in Singapore. Wow. Was that the place where the guy was caned? If I do karaoke tonight, I'm going to do network news and sing about the guy who went to, was it Singapore, and brought along the spray paint and got caned way back in the 90s. This fear of isolation causes individuals to try to assess the climate of opinion at all times. And I don't do it as much now that I've been sort of accepted in the community, but for a long time, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm trying to be cautious with Sci-Fi Mombi, because I don't want to just arbitrarily, you think exactly the way I do and you should think. But that human side of me, I want her to like me. I want her to think I'm spiffy and cool. So I'm kind of feeling her out, and that came out weird. Don't think I'm weird. I am weird, but not that anyway. So I'm awkward, and there are reasons why I was single most of my life. Anyway, but I basically, that human side of me, I want to know, well, does she think this? Does she think that? And so now I'm not going to beat her over the head with my right wing stuff. Instead, the left wing has got some good points too. It's human. It's what we do. And part of that may be a lack of courage, but a lot of that is just, we need each other. And so we want to figure out, well, what does this crowd think, and how do I fit in with it, and how do I work with it? Lastly, the results of the estimate affect their behavior in public, especially their willingness or not to express opinions openly. Again, I have my right-wing views, but I'm not going to go, Sci-Fi Mombi, you're a terrible left-wing which she's probably not. She has some thoughts that go that way, and probably some that go the other. But I'm probably stupid to do this, but I'm just using myself as an example. This is what we do. For good or ill,
the fear of isolation, an apprehension that leads individuals to withhold their divergent opinions when they perceive them to be in the minority. This fear is not merely social but extends to potential reprisals or adverse consequences for expressing dissenting views. As individuals gauge the climate of opinion around them, they rely on a quasi-statistical sense to estimate majority and minority views, impacting.
So here's the question that I have to ask myself if I'm being intellectually honest, and that we all need to be asking ourselves. So I use the example of me interacting with Sci-Fi Mombi. Would I be courageous enough, say that if there were 8 or 10 or 12 of us and we're all right-wingers, and she says, well, I have this opinion here, would I be courageous enough to stand up for her? I wish I could just unequivocally say, oh, yeah, absolutely, I would, because I'm a good, but would I? I don't know. I think, obviously it would depend a lot on the context, but I think it's a question that we all need to ask ourselves. How willing are we to go against what we perceive as an accepted idea? And where is the line as far as, some might say, well, you should have been courageous by telling Sci-Fi Mombi to go get stuffed. Whereas to me, that's actually just rudeness. I don't know. It's a can of worms. Sashi, getting caned is common in Southeast Asia, but yes, graffiti artists get the cane in Singapore. Malaysia does it for drugs and the assault that we cannot talk about. Okay. Sci-Fi Mombi, I'm on the left side, however, stay more to the middle. Yeah, I think that's whether someone leans to the right or the left, I think a lot of people do tend to be mostly centrist. They might have a take on this issue or that issue, but by and large, I think we're all just trying to figure this shit out. And so, I think most of us aren't going to go, well, I want to get on the most extreme part of this that I possibly can. The extremes end up calling the shots because of the dynamics of this theory, I think are likely true. The loudest people, the angriest people are the ones who people are listening to. But I think that so-called moral majority, I don't think it necessarily means right-wingers are the salt of the earth. I think average people, people who have some right-wing beliefs and some left-wing beliefs and mostly just want to live and let live. You used to say, live and let live. You did, you did, you did. I know I got to stop before I get a copyright strike, and most of us are just trying to survive, and most of us are being fed from whatever media of our choice is, all this stuff, and all too often on both sides, it ends up being a big crock of lies. And that's one of the things I hop up and down here is how do we figure out the truth? And then once we've figured out the truth, if we figured out the truth, what do we do with it then?
In their decision to speak out or remain silent, the theory identifies key components, including the presence of a public interest issue, divisiveness.
All right, this is another thing about the spiral. The picture we have of what most people believe is not always accurate. And I've misread a crowd many and many a time. Yeah. Highly vocal holders of a minority opinion can end up having a disproportionate influence on public discourse. Again, sometimes I'm not misreading the crowd. I'm misreading who the leader of the crowd is. And then I get people more or less away from the leader. And I find, well, really, I don't agree with that person so much, but they're the leader. They're the ones calling the shots. So we're going to go with what they say. possibility of discord makes us less likely to voice opinions because really none of us likes discord. I don't think there's many people on the right or the left who are enjoying this political process that we're going through. I think most of us would love for there to be less hate, be less anger, to be less lies. But the dynamics of people has put us where we're at. The possibility of discord makes us less likely to voice opinions, assuming we are not trying to drum up conflict. And there are those kinds of people. And then you got contrarians like me, who, if you tell me long enough that this is so, this is so, this is so, this is so, and I happen to say often enough, yeah, but what about this? What about this? What about this? At some point, I will just stop listening to what you say if you don't have at least a kind of a better answer than just do as you're told. What seems like a sudden change in mainstream opinions can be the result of a shift in what is acceptable to voice, not in what people think. This, I think, is part of, I don't want to speak for the LGBTQ community because I'm not part of it, but I think that's part of the experience that some of them have had, if they don't still have it. There was a time when you couldn't talk about it. And that some of us on the right forget that that's part of the dynamic of why some people are hopping up and down so much. You know, when you've been silenced for so long, I mean, it's exactly what I'm doing, only on a different tangent. You get to where you want to be heard. You want that part of you to be relevant. And so you start to speak, right or wrong. I like to say right or wrong. Go to bed, Sci-Fi Mombi. I'm glad that you liked the discussion. I promise I'm almost-ish done, depending on what we decide to talk about. But go to bed. Thank you for listening. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a little bit from it, and I hope we're all better people the more you know.
On the issue, a quasi-statistical sense, fear of isolation, belief in the isolation resulting from a minority opinion, and the existence of a hardcore group unaffected by others' opinions. While the spiral of silence theory has been widely acknowledged, it is not without criticism. Some argue that its parameters need updating to reflect the complexities of 21st century.
All right, so here we go. There was no social media in the way we think of it back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. These dynamics all kind of shift how the theory works. You have the hostile media effect. You know, if I listen to CNN, I will think that I am just like completely alone in this nation. If I listen to Fox, I will believe that 90% of the nation is with me, and all those people on the other side are just a bunch of freaking deviants. And the truth is somewhere distinctly in between. I don't know what they mean by self-categorization. Possibly, well, I won't say anything because I haven't looked that part up. Social identity, social judgment, all of it contributes, and the sources contribute to the spiral of silence.
Society, and others contend that it fails to account for variables beyond social isolation. The theory's relationship with mass society theory, its reliance on the concept of a vocal minority, and its implications for medial effects are subjects of ongoing debate. Despite criticisms, the theory has retained its relevance and has been applied to various contexts, including the role of social media. The internet, often seen as a platform for diverse voices, challenges the theory to some extent, providing spaces where...
And I think it challenges the theory, but it also kind of establishes it. And here's where I'm going to be the bad right winger. Look at the things that are censored on social media platforms. I hope that we mostly would agree, and if not, we just need to have that discussion in a respectful vein. But I think most of us would agree that is largely one side that has been censored on the social media platforms. And you have one side saying, well, of course they're censored. They're blithering idiots. And the other side's like, no, we're not. We have a right to speak. You need to let us speak. And even if you do think that the right is wrong, I got to tell you, it's not a great idea. It is no more of a great idea to be silencing the right than it was to silence the LGBTQ community or to silence the blacks back in the day. It is never a good idea. I mean, maybe the truly insane, but short of that, or people who are actually are trying to incite, I mean, truly are trying to incite violence or harm people. Outside of that, I am never, ever, 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 ever for censoring somebody. Sashi, it's like we're all in a boat. Those in the center have to move in the opposite direction whenever there's too many on one side, just to try to keep the boat from tipping over. And I think that's why I've had my shift back to the right. And with respect to you, Sci-Fi Mobby, you're not. I'm kind of excluding you from this because you've been so reasonable and kind. But I feel like there have been a fair number of left-wing people who have just basically tried to silence me, and I'm sorry, that's bullshit. I get if I was out here saying like horrible, rude, terrible things, but just voicing a different opinion that to arbitrarily silence it, not cool. It's not the sign of a Republican/Democratic society.
Minority opinions might find expression. However, even in digital social networking spaces, the spiral of silence seems to persist, affecting users' participation, vocalization, and opinions.
And reference back, there was a member of our community who felt and feels really isolated from the right wingers that are here, who are vociferously against the Acolyte TV show, and he's very much for the Acolyte TV show. And I have no dog in the fight. I'm not trying to intellectually challenge my right-wing friends, but I would suggest that very similar dynamics are happening even within our community. Mostly, I don't feel like I've ever been silenced, but I get how he feels. I've been in that place where I had that unpopular belief, and it sucks to feel like you just can't say what you think.
As we navigate through the nuanced layers of the spiral of silence theory, it is essential to recognize its impact on public discourse, political climates, and the role of media in shaping political science and mass communication that posits an individual's inclination to express their opinions is influenced by their perception of the prevailing public opinion, rooted in the surprising findings of the 1965 German federal election campaign. The theory explores how people's willingness to voice their views on controversial issues is shaped by their unconscious awareness of those opinions being either popular or unpopular.
Hey, look, it's Richard Nixon. Look at him. You can just tell he's an innocent guy. Michael P. Keaton, was that his name? Anyway, the guy from Family Ties, he was right. Nixon's just a great guy. I'm being silly. Don't think I actually believe that.
During the 1965 election campaign, Noel Newman conducted surveys tracking political opinions, revealing a consistent deadlock between the Christian Democratic Union, Christian Social Union, DUXU, and the Social Democratic Party of Germany, SDP. However, in the final weeks, a sudden shift occurred, with a surge in DUXU support. This shift was attributed to a visit by Queen Elizabeth II, creating an optimistic mood among DUXU supporters, leading them to publicly express their views. In contrast, SDP supporters, perceiving their opinions as less popular, refrained from vocalizing their views. The spiral.
Yes, I know what you're thinking. You're saying this was one of the better videos. Well, you should hear some of the ones I listened to. I'm going to skip over here.
Why individuals often choose silence over voicing dissenting opinions. The fear of isolation, deeply ingrained in the theory, emerges as a powerful force shaping public discourse. The spiral effect, triggered by the confidence of the perceived majority, illustrates the delicate balance between conformity and dissent. The mass media, a central player in this dynamic, not only reflects but also influences the perceived majority opinion. However, the theory faces scrutiny, especially in the age of the internet and the vocal minority. The online realm, often
sadly, I look more like this guy than I wish I did,
hailed as a bastion of diverse opinions, challenges the traditional constraints of the spiral of silence. Meanwhile, individuals who persistently express unconventional views, the vocal minority, seem less swayed by the theory's inhibiting effects. Our journey through the spiral of silence theory has uncovered its applications to contemporary contexts, particularly in the realm of social media. The hesitation of users to express opinions online when perceiving disagreement among their connections raises intriguing questions about the spillover of this phenomenon into in-person interactions. In our conclusion, it's crucial to acknowledge the theory's role in shaping our understanding of public opinion dynamics. Nevertheless, the debates surrounding its limitations and applicability to our ever-evolving society underscore the need for continued research as we navigate the complexities of communication.
I'm always a proponent of continued research. One more video. I think I'm down to just Sashi. I'm scared everyone away. One more video, and then I guess I will leave it up to Sashi whether he wants me to talk about pissing off my friend or about some of the things that I think are applicable to the basically where our society has got a spiral of silence, and then I'll call it a stream. This is the Glenn Show. He's talking with Lex Friedman. You may or may not know Lex's podcast. I thought that Glenn made some very interesting points when it comes to, I hope YouTube will let me say this. This is for educational purposes only. I'm not a proponent of it, but racism accusations and the spiral of silence. Right or wrong, fair or not, I'm going to point out that the left crucified RFK. We were told that he had a brainworm. We were told that he had taken a roadkill bear and put it in a park, that he had eaten a roadkill dog, and that he had beheaded a whale that he found dead on a beach and drove home with the head on the roof of his car. Honestly, I was willing to believe the first one. The second one, I was starting to doubt. And the third one, I was like, this is like, I'm seeing a pattern. And by the fourth one, I realized, yeah, they'd done what both sides typically do. They'd made up a bunch of ridiculous lies. And I frankly think that they went so far as to think, how far can we actually push the public and they'll believe it? And guess what? Again, I hope that this is not disrespectful, but there are several of my left-leaning friends who believe all of them. Not just one, not just two, all of them. This is why I hop up and down, because that scares the crap out of me. Sashi, of course, we should not confuse a spiral of silence for the cone of silence, nor the cone of shame. How would one behead a whale? The science doesn't add up. Thank you, Sashi. How would you do that? And then once you got it on your car, how would you get it home without a big trail of freaking guts that surely some cop would see and would not give a damn that you were a Kennedy? You're getting your sorry ass pulled over and you're getting a ticket. I mean, the story, it's ridiculous. Now, again, the right does it too. And because I'm biased, I'm sadly not thinking of a great example. But I think that's one of the reasons why the left was so adamant for so long that Biden didn't have dementia. Because it's true. The right would, I hate to say this, but they would lie about that. And for several months, I really didn't want to believe it. I believed that this was lies from the right. The reason I came to believe that it was so was because I was believing the evidence of my own eyes and ears. And I think we need to get back to that. Okay. One of the reasons why I wanted to play this, I know that probably some of my left-leaning friends were confused about why was I talking about McCarthyism, but then by the end of the post, I'm basically denouncing the left. What's up with that? I didn't do a great job of explaining it then. This guy does. It's the same dynamic. And again, I don't want to absolve the right because let's face it, McCarthy was a freaking right-winger. So let's not pretend that we're all innocent and the left is all the bad guys. But essentially the very same tactics, the very same strategies that he used is, in my humble opinion, something that the left is using. And I don't want to exclusively say that. I'm not saying that the right, even in these times, is innocent of it. But the reason I'm bringing this up is friend after friend after friend. Trump is racist. Trump is racist. Trump is racist. I hate to tell you this. No, he's not. I'm not saying that to convince you that he's a great guy. He's a perfect guy. You should vote for him. But please vote for him with the understanding that when he is called a racist, that is a lie. I've never said this before, but I can find more evidence that Biden was/is a racist than that Trump is or was. I don't do that, well, partly because of the dynamic, partly because I silence myself because I don't want to go too far. I don't want to anger my friends. I don't want to be isolated. All right. Now I have a question, and it is only a question. I have what I think is the answer, but I want Sashi and whoever is silly enough to ever watch this on the replay. You hear a lot on the right about Kamala being a communist. In the interests of fairness, can we not at least entertain the possibility that that is unfair, that that might just be an ad hominem attack? I'm not meaning to crawfish on my right wingedness. I'm just going to tell you, I have my bias. I will probably vote for who I'm going to vote for. And I will also admit, I suspect not so much that she's a literal communist, but I suspect that she has been strongly influenced by communists. But I have to entertain the question, if I'm being intellectually honest, is she really one? Or is this just something that the right is throwing on her? Is it possible that it's just as untrue that she's a communist as I am claiming that Trump is not a racist? Of course, I would debunk McCarthy, Sashi. I am a Russian asset. And you know what? I think Russia needs to pay me better because I'm got to tell you, I'm not living very well on my spy wages. Shout out to the NSA agent monitoring this blog. Sashi, the Indian lady, will just enact policies that cater to her base. I don't think she believes in anything. Yeah, and again, I'm probably being unfair, but I actually do agree with that statement. If there's another person in here, feel free, whoever you are, to comment. Be willing. I'm willing to take a respectful challenge to my thinking. Let's see what else Glenn here has to say. All right, let's see. Sashi is saying we have the same thing here. Both sides just say what they need to get elected, and there's no audio coming on the stream. Oh, crap. I don't know how to fix that. Is that a side effect of the spiral of silence? No, that is just your tired blogger not having the skills that he wished he had. I don't know why it's not playing. I'm going to try for a little bit longer. Let me know if you hear it. And if you don't, I'll just move on to the last topic. And since you're the only one here, unless somebody else shows up, you're the one that's going to get to pick it. Did you hear that? You're not alone. That's what he's saying. And how far back did the silence start, Sashi? Did you hear any of it? Or is it all dead air? All right. Well, there's sadly no point in playing it, but basically he's just talking about Lex Friedman asks him about how do we combat this strategy of people just denouncing other people as racist and with no proof, with nothing to back it up. It just becomes so, and people get it was the last 3 clips. Okay, it's the last three minutes or whatever. Okay. Essentially, how do we combat that? And Glenn Loury is just saying that one of the ways we combat this is by understanding the dynamic of this this spiral of silence theory, and just understanding that it is also possible to essentially manipulate, to rig the system by figuring out what is society really hateful of. So I'll go on the other side. The accusation that Biden is a pedophile. I don't know if you've heard that one or not. I'm not going to say that it is so or it is not so, or that I believe it or that I don't believe it, but it's an accusation. So it's essentially the right playing the same game that the left does. We're going to find something that's so awful and so terrible. Now, if you want to argue that there's evidence, we actually can make that argument. But that's not the point. The point is, we're going to try to get that label stuck on him. And whether that evidence weighs up in court, that's not what matters. What matters is we put the label on him. So I guess that is it. So on to the end of the stream. Sasha, you're the only one here. So I'm going to leave it up to you. Do you want me to talk about essentially I was going to fill out a little bit more of what Troy Picelli had said last night. Essentially, I was going to share that the spiral of silence has silenced us from admitting certain truths about Trump where lies have been said about him. Sashi thinks he's not a pedophile. He's just not all there. And you know what? I can absolutely accept that view. I'm not going to try to hop up and down and convince you, no, I'm right, you're wrong, because that isn't the point. I know some friends of mine who think he's a pedophile who would take issue and say, no, that is the point. But as far as this stream and this channel, it's not my job to prove or disprove that. I'm mainly here to try to figure out what the hell's going on and hopefully help you out with that as well. I think the best use I can make of the time is actually not to talk about the thing that happened between my friend and I. Partly because I don't really want to call him out, not like publicly. I said what I had to say in a text, and we'll leave it at that. But I do think that the things that Troy Pacelli shared, I want to go at least a little tiny bit more in depth. My left-wing friends will likely just completely disregard that. And then if you're a left-winger and you just don't want to hear this, I absolutely understand. Feel free to shut off the stream now. Hopefully you got something out of what you already heard. But Huckabee on TBN is talking about debunking the top 10 lies told about Donald Trump. And depending on how much interaction I get will depend on how much I say to further that conversation. Let's dig into these 10 lies, and we might do a little bit of research ourselves to see if we need to, in fact, debunk Huckabee, or if his debunking holds.
I would say get over your petty hurts and realizes that.
And also, please let me know if you can hear it. I can't say he is because I have no evidence. He is creepy, I admit. And yeah, I mean, I've had some of my liberal friends have said, "Oh no, he's just like a kind old grandfatherly type," and I don't want to I don't want to be dismissive, because that's the whole point of this, of my hopping up and down. I'm pissed that I've been dismissed. It's not fair for me to turn around and completely dismiss that thought. But in my humble opinion, when he sniffs those little girls' hair, and don't get me wrong, I love women's hair, but it's a little creepy to me. Whether that doesn't necessarily prove he's one thing or the other, but it does creep me out. All right, let's see what Huckabee has. One of the other things that has caused me to come to the place where I'm at, I understand being angry at Trump. I understand not voting for Trump. I don't understand the amount of hate that's out there. I really don't. And I also don't understand, like, I've been in a place until very recently where I hated both. I hated Trump. I hated Biden. I don't understand saying that, well, hatred of, I mean, to be fair, these are not the exact words that my friends used, but what I hear when you're saying all these things is that Trump, hatred of Trump. Okay, I'll put it in this way. When you say things like, it's too bad that the guy missed, when you're saying things like, I think the assassination attempt was staged, what and I suspect lots of people on the right are hearing when you say that is hatred of Trump is valid. Now, let's entertain that thought. Let's entertain the thought that hatred of Trump is valid. I hate to tell you this, but to be intellectually honest, you have to turn around and say, oh, and by the way, if hatred of Trump is valid, so is hatred of Biden. I have said to my liberal friends before that I hated Biden. I apologize for that, not because that I've after the assassination attempt, I've decided hate is not the answer. If it was, then we have no moral ground to be judging the guy who shot him. None. So when I realized that my friends were not enjoying me talking bad about Biden, I shut up about Biden. Why I'm hopping up and down now is they did not give me the courtesy of the return. They didn't shut up about Trump. They didn't shut up about RFK. They went on and on and on ad nauseum until I got to where I never wanted to hear the words Trump again. They never quite got there with RFK, mainly because I don't think they thought he was a real political threat. And I hate to admit it, but part of me wants to say that the joke's on them, but maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. All right, let's debunk some stuff.
Publishing my twice daily.
These are things that my liberal friends say to this day. Trump was a Russian colluder. I hear it all the time. Oh, yeah, it turned out that there was this, the last thing that, before I finally just did ask them, and they finally did respect my wishes to not talk about politics. But one of the last things that one of my friends said was that there was some kind of virus that was infecting the Trump website, and it turned out that it was all a bunch of Russian code. One, that's so vague. I don't know anything about it. But number two, even if it's true, doesn't that sound like the Russians hacked him? Doesn't that mean they're against him? I don't know. It makes no sense. They hate him because if they believe otherwise, it would mean the people on their side aren't always right. They're uncomfortable with that revelation, and no one wants that now. Yeah. Well, I get it, but I think we're all respectfully. I know you're the only one here, so I don't want to insult you, but I think we're all going to have to get over that. I'm not going to research all of these points, but I think that most of us who are intellectually honest remember that the Steele dossier was proven to be false. And to me, unless you can come up with some like have him on video talking to a Russian spook, or have him on video, I don't know, doing something that just screams out to me, oh yeah, he's a spy. I really don't want to hear. I don't want to hear that accusation any more than the other side would want to hear anything about Biden being a pedophile. Because just believing that it's true only because you want it to be is not intellectually honest. Now, I don't know if you remember, but the reporting at the time was so chaotic. And I don't want to completely blame the media because it was a chaotic thing. Whatever you want to label that event, whatever you think of that event, it was a chaotic thing. It would have been very difficult to do a reasonable job of reporting it. But I seem to remember that same thing, that while the thing was happening, I don't remember him ever going up and having a speech of, yes, go and riot and purge this world of the enemy. I remember him saying, let's do this peacefully, and then let's go home. Maybe I'm being intellectually dishonest, but I don't even feel the need to look it up. But feel free to call me out if you think I should. Sashi does eye examinations. You've seen many young people find it difficult to answer a question between two choices. It's almost as if they can't answer without a consensus. They're losing their individuality. It's been like that for quite some time. This is the thing. In fact, you've absolutely nailed what is scaring me. And probably my friends think the opposite only about me. I feel like my friends have lost their individuality. I feel like all they're really doing anymore is parroting a party line, and it cuts to say this. It hurts like hell to say this. I would like to be wrong. But when you literally say things to me like Biden's foreign policy was brilliant, Biden's border policy was brilliant, Trump is a Russian asset, Biden did not have dementia. At some point, it's hard for me to continue to respect your objectivity, at least. If you're really objective, you've got to be able to say something positive about your opponent. And I will demonstrate that right now. In spite of what a lot of my right-wing friends think, I think Biden believed he was doing a good thing, and I think it is possible to demonstrate some economic feasibility for forgiving the student loan debts. See, that's what objectivity is. When your opponent does something and you actually think it's a good thing, you admit it. You don't say like, well, yeah, but he only did it for this reason, or he did it. Now, I may be wrong that it was a good thing. We can debate that. But we have to have that debate on the merits of, is that an economically and morally good thing? Debating on it on this pitiful, he's just a bad guy, I don't think that works anymore. I think that's where bullets start flying. And I don't want that. I think most of us, I feel like that one's easily debunked, but I'm going to go ahead and go through the effort because I feel like it's kind of silly to just watch this and not at least establish some of the truth. So, going to go to DuckDuckGo because I don't really trust Google anymore. Did Trump really grab the wheel and try to drive his limo to DC? All right. I got to be intellectually honest. I will go with Newsweek, although I worry about it. But let's see. Let's just see what they say. This was published January 2022. The January 6th committee has retweeted a video of Donald Trump's presidential limo following testimony. He allegedly tried to grab the steering wheel to drive it to the Capitol building. Cassidy Hutchinson, a top aide to Trump's ex-chief of staff, Mark Meadows, gave testimony in Tuesday on the January 6th committee. She said Trump had been in a physical altercation with a security detail on January 6th, demanded to go to the Capitol after the riots began. Hutchinson recounted the story from Tony Ornato, the Assistant Director of the U.S. Secret Service Office of Training. She said that Ornato told her that when security declined to bring Trump to the Capitol, the former president allegedly grabbed at the steering wheel of the vehicle transporting him. Today's testimony makes clear that Trump wanted to go to the Capitol with the armed mob. When the Secret Service ruled out the possibility, the former president erupted in anger in the suburban he was riding in. All right, and here we have a tweet from before Elon Musk had taken it over. Today's testimony makes clear Trump wanted to go to the Capitol with the armed mob. When the Secret Service ruled out the possibility, the former president erupted in anger. In it, behind a group of Trump supporters, a person can be seen moving their hands frantically inside the then president's Chevy Suburban limo. Well, let's watch it. I mean, let's be intellectually honest. Let's watch this thing. I hope I don't even care if it can be heard. I just. All right. Well, here's my question to you. At the risk of sounding like I'm not intellectually honest, what did you see there? It's not a trick question. Did you see Trump in the SUV grabbing the wheel? Again, if I'm going to be intellectually honest, yes, this is what's being reported. But then you show me the video, I don't see that it proves one damn thing. Please let me know. Let me know if I'm the one that's full of shit. This is exactly what happened to Singapore. Everyone believes the government acts in their best interest to go against the narrative that leads to chaos. Giving up freedom for the perception of safety. Wouldn't he be in the back? How do you grab the steering wheel in a limo? And I know that's what Huckabee argues. But again, I'm trying to be intellectually honest here. I want to look at the actual evidence. I know some people are saying some stuff, and it is a fact. Newsweek is reporting that people said this stuff. That's not arguable, I think. But I don't see how this proves a damn thing. Maybe that's my bias talking. But after the hearing, Trump, who had long opposed the investigation into the riots, I'll just let that go, lashed out at the former White House aide on a social media site, Truth Social. He downplayed her role in the administration, accused her of lying. Now, again, at the risk of undoing everything I just said, isn't that what he would say if she was lying? I mean, maybe he is the one lying. Maybe she's the one lying. I don't know. And honestly, from this report, the only way I can evaluate based on what I'm seeing, reading and seeing is what do I want to be true? Now I can use reason. In other words, in fact, let's again, at the risk of being intellectually dishonest, let's go back to Huckabee and see what he has to say about it. Remember what you've read, what you've seen, and then listen to Huckabee, and you decide. Okay, let's do this. What did the presidential detail say? Trump jumping blah blah blah. Addition, what was said on stage, that doesn't help us at all. I guess I'm no longer on DuckDuckGo. That might explain it. Did to front seat on January 6th. January 6th. CBS News reported that he tried to grab the steering wheel. Here we go. All right. We've got something. Now, again, maybe I'm picking the wrong one to believe, but we have ABC News. March 11, 2024. So I guess what we're saying is for about 4 years, that previous article was just accepted as fact. But ABC News here is reporting Trump's driver contradicts Cassidy Hutchinson about January 6th SUV altercation. Former Trump White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony about what she was told of then President Donald Trump's actions on January 6th was contradicted in part by Trump's driver that day. Hutchinson was a key witness in a previous Democrat-led House Select Committee's investigation. She testified both privately and publicly. Among other details, Hutchinson testified she was told Trump was irate, which, maybe, I don't know. On that day, attempted to go meet with supporters at the Capitol, where the rioting then unfolded as Congress gathered to certify Trump's election defeat to Joe Biden. Hutchinson recalled the conversation she had at the White House on January 6th with Bobby Engel, part of Trump's security detail, who was sitting in the chair looking somewhat discombobulated. Trump White House staffer Tony Ornato, she testified before the committee on June 2022. So I guess this was the official story for 2 years, and now we finally are coming up with something contradicting it. Interesting. As the president had gotten in the vehicle with Bobby, he thought they were going out of the Capitol. When Bobby had relayed to him, "We're not. We don't have the assets to do it. It's not secure. We're going back to the West Wing." The president had a very strong, very angry response to that, she recalled then. Tony described him as being irate. I noticed that the story is saying she's contradicted, but all we're hearing is her stuff. That's interesting to me. The president said something to the effect of, "I'm the effing president. Take me up to the Capitol now," to which Bobby responded, "Sir, we have to go back to the West Wing." The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, "Sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. We're going back to the West Wing. We're not going to the Capitol." Let me point something out here. Whichever side of the thing you're on, when he lifted up his hand and said, "Fight, fight, fight," I mean, obviously it was a different detail. I'm just saying. I'm just pointing that out. Here we have this Secret Service agent just totally taking over the situation. And they basically submitted to him in the assassination attempt. Now, the people who think that it was staged will probably just say, "Well, yeah, he got rid of all the ones that would defy him." But I just, whichever side you're on, you got to think about this, I think. Why did the Secret Service defy him then, if this is true, and they totally backed him up when the bullets were flying? I think it's something to think about. Mr. Trump used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel, but the new 81-page report from the House Administration's Committee's Subcommittee on Oversight, which is examining both the previous committee's investigation and what happened on January 6th, calls Hutchinson's account into question. The new report cites testimony that was given by 4 other Trump White House employees to the January 6th committee. None of the White House employees corroborated Hutchinson's sensational story about President Trump lunging for the steering wheel. However, some witnesses did describe the president's mood after the speech. It is highly improbable that the other White House employees would have heard about the president's mood in the SUV following his speech at the Ellipse, but not heard the sensational story that Hutchinson claims Anthony Ornato, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations, told her. None of them ever testified they heard anything, even similar to the story recounted by Hutchinson. According to the new report, the driver, who is not named, was interviewed by the previous January 6th committee, testified that he specifically refuted the version of the events as recounted by Hutchinson. Interesting. The driver said he did not see him reach. President Trump never grabbed the steering wheel. I didn't see him, lunge to try to get into the front seat at all, the report says. Ornato was also interviewed by the previous January 6th committee, who stated that the January 2022 interview was not released to the public. That's interesting. Why wasn't it? Along with other materials the earlier committee shared. Ornato said in his November 2022 interview he didn't remember the incident with former president that Hutchinson described. I relayed that this is not a story I recollect. I don't recall that story happening. Now, in a statement, Mississippi Representative Benny Thompson, the Democrat who led the previous January 6th committee, pushed back on the news report's findings, said the work led by Representative Barry Loudermilk, a Georgia Republican, was dishonest. Well, certainly somebody is. Maybe I'm wrong about who's lying, but somebody is lying. And I would suggest that all too many of us are just deciding that my side's the honest one and your side's the liar. Hutchinson's attorney referred ABC News to a letter he sent to Loudermilk, that's a great name, in January, in which he wrote in part that Hutchinson has and will continue to tell the truth. Ms. Hutchinson will not succumb to pressure campaign from those who seek to silence her and influence her testimony, even when done in the name of oversight. Before her bombshell public testimony about being told Trump had an incident with Secret Service on January 6, Hutchinson switched from an attorney paid for by a Trump-aligned political group to another attorney. Well, yeah, that's fair enough. She has written about having concerns that speaking out about what she knew could raise concerns with Trump. Well, yeah, whether it's true or not, if I'm Trump, I'm going to be pissed. If it's true, it's because I'm a pathetic, whiny person. If it's a lie, it's because it's a lie. Geez, foot. All right. Let's go back to Huckabee. Maybe I'm being unfair, but I suggest that that's debunked. Because if your driver is saying that it's not so, then it's not so. I'm just putting that out there. Whether we like it, whether we want it to be true, that you don't have the proof. So I'm sorry. I would agree that's debunked. Maybe I need more evidence. Maybe I need another article. Let's do it again. Trump never said there were very fine people among the neo-Nazis. There were. This is also something that has basically been used to justify anything and everything. All right. I know I have challenged this site before, but because I only have so much intellectual honesty, I'm going to just say, read it and weep. This is Snopes. No. Trump did not call neo-Nazis and white supremacists very fine people. However, the accuracy of what Trump did claim, that there were very fine people on both sides, is in question. So, frankly, I guess the best we can say is we don't really know what the hell he said. But he did not say that there are neo-Nazis were very fine people. So, why would we say that? We would say that because we want it to be true. We hate him. and we want reasons to hate him. And what better reason to hate someone than because they are neo-zanies? I'm going to suggest that is, in my humble opinion, debunked. Again, feel free to challenge me respectfully.
Number 5, them.
Okay, this has also been thrown in my face many and many a time. Trump said that the people who died in the military were suckers and losers. I believed it, frankly, until I saw this video. It's one of the reasons, again, we have to have reasons to hate him, and here they are. Hey, sorry, I haven't been keeping up with the DJ Ronnie G. Thank you for showing up. I'm kind of getting toward the end of it, but I'm ending it very slowly. Sashi, I'm thinner than Orange Man. I can't grab the steering wheel of my brother's SUV while seated in the back. Yeah. Finally, someone else Curtis can listen to. Yeah, exactly. Pause button was on for a minute. I understand. And thank you very much. I'm glad you're listening. I hope that it is entertaining and or informative. The driver was obviously a Russian asset. He said, Da, tovarish. We are all Russian accents. Yeah, people throwing stuff in your face, that's rough. Yeah, well, figuratively speaking. Let's look that one up. Hopefully it is as easy as the other one. And if not, I can be wrong. Huckabee can be wrong. Did Trump really say the military were suckers and losers? Rolling Stone reported it, but I've lost pretty much all respect on them. Let's go to Snopes again. Crap. I hate when that does that. Now look at that. Lo and behold, did Trump call fallen soldiers suckers and losers? Let's see what they say. They're taking their sweet time about it, so maybe they'll verify it. In early October of 2023, U.S. President Joe Biden, a former member of Donald Trump's presidential administration, resurrected a years-old accusation against Trump, allegedly revealed his true opinion of U.S. military troops. According to the claim, Trump once called fallen soldiers suckers and losers. Here we have Joe Biden tweeting about it. Trump and his allies have denied the accusation. Shortly before the election between Trump and Biden, whether performative or authentic, Trump's apparent support for soldiers in the U.S. military, both active and veteran members, has been part of his presidential campaigns. Following a story by The Atlantic, a number of reputable news outlets reported on the alleged comments in 2020, relying entirely on anonymous sources from his administration. However, there appeared to be no evidence of an audio or video recording of the remarks in question, nor was there any documentation, such as transcripts or presidential notes, to independently confirm or deny the alleged quote's authenticity. Moreover, since Snopes did not witness the in-question comments firsthand, we can't say for certain whether Trump called fallen soldiers suckers and losers. We reached out to Trump's representatives to see if they had any supplemental evidence to help substantiate their denial, as well as for a response to a renewed attention on the comments. How the accusations emerged. Citing anonymous officials from the administration, the 2020 article by The Atlantic titled "Trump, Americans Who Died in Wars, Losers and Suckers," unpacked Trump's trip to Paris when he allegedly did not want to visit a cemetery of American war dead. The visit was canceled. Trump did not want to visit the Marne American Cemetery for two reasons. According to The Atlantic, he feared the rain would dishevel his hair. I'm sure that's an accurate report. And because he did not believe it important to honor American war dead. Shortly after the publication of The Atlantic report, one unnamed senior official with the U.S. Department of Defense and one senior U.S. Marine Corps official confirmed the 2018 cemetery remarks from the above reports. Snopes, you're really not giving us something unequivocal. You're kind of equivocating here. Did he do it or not? Trump strongly denied calling them losers and suckers. There is nobody that respects them more. Just days later, Zach Fuentes, a former White House aide who left the administration in early 2019, was with the president on the Paris trip and presumably near him during the in-question conversation about the cemetery visit, stood up for Trump in an interview with Breitbart, referring to General John Kelly, who was with Trump during the trip as his chief of staff. He said, "I did not hear POTUS call anyone losers when I told him about the weather. Honestly, do you think General Kelly would have stood by and let anyone call fallen Marines losers?" Reporting on Fuentes' interview with Breitbart, the Washington Post noted that the phrase "I did not hear" is not the same as "it didn't happen." Furthermore, there was no evidence of Kelly being around Trump to hear the alleged comments. We're equivocating quite a lot here. Trump's former national, basically look, do your own reading, do your own thinking, but I'm going to say right here, they want this to be true so bad, but they can't say that it's true because they don't have any actual proof. Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, said he was on the trip, issued a denial to Fox News. Then U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo denied the claims in an interview with Fox News. Kelly, who was with Trump in Paris, confirmed that Trump did call American Trumps losers and suckers. It was unclear whether he witnessed the comments firsthand or heard about them from someone else. So again, lots of equivocation, a lot of vagueness. It's basically, if you're going with this, it's essentially, do you want to believe he said it? Do you not want to believe he said it? So I'm not going to go quite so far as to say that it is debunked, but I do think that it's interesting. Let me go back to when I looked it up. Did Trump really say the military were suckers and losers? I think you can see. Oh, it's not there now. I hate the internet sometimes. When I first looked it up, Snopes had on here that was debunked. But now it's just a bunch of equivocation. So again, if I'm being intellectually honest, I can't say whether he did it or not based off of all this. But I would suggest that whether he believed he did it or not. Oh, wait, let's look at this. This is a site that I respect. This is The Hill. Let's see what they have to say about it. All right. During Thursday night's first presidential debate between Biden and President Trump, several accusations came to the fore. One exchange between the president and the former president caused one of the night's most tense moments. Near the end of the first 30 minutes, Biden claimed Trump previously verbally attacked and disrespected American veterans, particularly the ones who were injured or died during combat. "My son served in Iraq," said Biden. "He lived next to burn pits. He came back with glioblastoma. Trump called veterans suckers and losers. My son was not a loser. He was not a sucker. You're the loser. You're the sucker." Trump immediately denied the comment, saying in part, "That was a made-up quote. Suckers and losers, they made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He, Biden, made that up. He put it in commercials. We had 19 people. I don't know if that's true, but we did read on Snopes there were a handful of people who said he didn't say it. Despite his claims to the contrary, however, Trump's own former chief of staff, John Kelly, previously confirmed Trump called dead veterans suckers. Discussion of Trump's comments also did feature in a Biden campaign video. The losers and suckers comments were first revealed in a multi-source article from The Atlantic. According to The Atlantic's close sources, Trump canceled the visit, claiming that the helicopter couldn't fly and the Secret Service would be unable to drive him there. The Atlantic reports neither statement were true. The Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg instead reports that sources close to Trump said that the real reason for the trip's cancellation was that Trump worried his hair would look bad in the rain and photos would be taken. Trump reportedly said, "Why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers." The Atlantic also reported that during a different exchange on the France trip, Trump called the Marines who died in the Battle of Belleau Wood suckers. So you have one person saying it happened, 5 people saying that I could count that it didn't. And I'm not going to make a judgment call on this one. But I would suggest that whether you believe he did it or whether you don't believe he did it probably depends on what you want to believe. Sashi, I'm captivated by the add-on Snopes. If you answer 12 questions correct, you have an IQ over 140. Oh, hey, Matt, you wouldn't. Sorry, I'm late. That's okay. I've been talking about the spiral theory of silence, and now I'm basically trying to eviscerate the left's what I think are false accusations against Trump. And so far, I am a Russian accent. I am a Russian asset. Tulsi Gabbard was recruited by $60. I was recruited with 60 rubles. And we did not hear Sashi denigrate the monarch of Thailand. All right, let's listen to a little bit more of Huckabee. So far, your tired blogger analysis is that for the first 4 claims have legitimately been debunked. The 5th one, basically, it just depends on who you want to believe. Do you want to believe that chief of staff, or do you want to believe the other 5 staffers who said it didn't happen? So
I'd always trust my daughter. Just would do that.
Huckabee's claiming that his daughter was physically there to witness it and denied that it was not true. She said it was not true that he said anything about people being suckers and losers. Now you just have to decide, do you believe Huckabee? Do you believe his daughter? Now, I can't make that judgment call for you. I know what I think. You can probably guess what I think, but I'm not going to go so far to say that it's 100% debunked. But I'm also going to say that I don't feel like there's a vast amount of evidence that it happened. There's definitely not irrefutable evidence that it happened.
Never said that. Number 6, Trump never said he planned to be a dictator from day one if he was reelected.
I will look that one up if you guys want me to, but I distinctly remember that speech, and it was basically, it was a turn of phrase. It was like when he talked about the bloodbath. If you're really trying to say that he literally plans to be a dictator, number one, he had his chance on January 6th. This is the thing that's been baffling me ever since it happened. If it's true that he tried to plan an insurrection, he had every opportunity to get it done that day. And my question has always been, well, why didn't he? And all my left-wing friends would ever say was, well, he's just that incompetent. I hate to say it, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Either he is this brilliant mastermind who is trying to take over the country, or he's a dumbass idiot. And yes, the truth can be somewhere in between, but based off of the things that you're saying, it's got to be one of those two. Which one is it? Sashi. The FBI is currently conducting an investigation on any statements made regarding the monarch of Thailand. I learned this answer from the former chief of the Secret Service. I will look that one up if you guys want me to, but I'm willing to just come out and say, I agree, that one's debunked. Again, I will look this one up if you guys insist, but I've blogged about this. I've done a video about this. In the context of that speech, no, he was not threatening a bloodbath. He was saying that there would be severe economic consequences if we allowed China to dominate our car industry. And now I know that the media, the incredibly centrist NPR reported that, and then they had to give us a 2-paragraph explanation for why it actually was disingenuous and he shouldn't have said that. And maybe he shouldn't have. And maybe it was disingenuous. But why do you have to add those 2 paragraphs? You reported the news. You should have been done. So, again, maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe I'm ramrodding things. But I'm going to pretty much declare that. I remember, because I was watching CNN quite a bit, that was reported, and that was reported as fact. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of research into that one. Maybe. Did Trump actually suggest taking bleach for COVID? All right. Snopes is going to give us another equivocal answer. I'm going to go with PolitiFact on this one because I really, to me, I'm sorry, Snopes, but the whole point of your thing is it true or not? I don't like all this equivocation and, well, it's not true, but that's why I kind of don't like their site very much anymore. So I'm going to go with PolitiFact here. They're at least willing to give you that it is mostly false, which may mean there's partial truth. On COVID-19, Donald Trump said that maybe if you drank bleach, you may be okay. No, Trump didn't tell Americans infected with coronavirus to drink bleach. Joe Biden made that claim. Trump did not explicitly recommend ingesting bleach, but he did express interest in exploring whether disinfectants could be applied to the site of a coronavirus infection inside the body. Responding to confusion over Trump's comments, the maker of Lysol said in a statement that under no circumstance should his product be used in the human body. Trump spoke about the role he thought disinfectants could play in tackling an infection caused by the virus during a now infamous April 23 briefing. He didn't say people should drink bleach. His comments came after William Bryan, the Undersecretary of Science and Technology at the Department of Homeland Security, presented a study that found sun exposure and cleaning agents like bleach can kill the virus. Here are Trump's full comments. A question that probably some of you are thinking of if you're totally into that world, which I find to be very interesting. So supposedly we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just some very powerful light. And I think you said that it hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way, to Brian. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting, huh? So basically he was talking, and then he continued. He couldn't keep his mouth shut after saying the smart thing. Then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in 1 minute. Is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets in the lungs, does a tremendous number on the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me. So we'll see. But the whole concept of the light, the way it kills it in 1 minute, that's very powerful. Later, Trump clarified his comments after a reporter asked Bryan whether disinfectants could actually be injected into patients. It wouldn't be through injections, almost a cleaning and sterilization of an area. Maybe it worked, maybe it doesn't work, but it certainly has a big effect if it's on a stationary object. So, again, this is going to likely depend largely on how you want to feel about Trump. But I'm going to give my interpretation, which maybe is being too fair to him, but I think he's saying, hey, that light thing sounds really interesting, and maybe we could use disinfectants on the surface of the body. Now, he did make a thing about the lungs, which I don't even know how to explain that. Maybe he misspoke. I don't know. I'm not going to defend it, but I'm also very tired of having that one thrown in my face. So I'm not going to say it's 100% debunked, but I'm going to say that about 95% of what people are saying to us is in fact debunked. Did he have a really stupid slip of the tongue? Yes. Did he honestly think we should be injecting bleach into people? No. All right. Let's share the screen and go back to Huckabee. He's got two more things, and then we're going to be done with the stream. Now, I don't like him being disrespectful there to the opposition, but that's he's catering to his audience, so there it is.
They didn't like about it. And then number 10, Trump does not back a federal abortion.
All right. I'm not going to do a deep dive, but let's go ahead and at least look up 47, because I honestly know almost nothing about that. Project 47. Oh, now I have to go through the worm of who do I actually want to read. On one hand, I want to be intellectually honest, but on the other, I don't really want to go with the usual suspects. What is Project 2025? The wish list for the presidency, and then that it's not true. See, look, here we have the BBC. They're supposed to be such centrists. Reporting that it's his wish list, and we've established that's bullshit. Ugh. All right. Anyway. Fact checking. All right. Intellectual honesty it is, but I'm going to be only so honest. Let's go with Forbes. I know that's a little bit of doctoring it, but I don't want to read a bunch of lies, or at least if I'm going to read lies, I want to read lies that I can live with. So what is Agenda 47? Former President Donald Trump is set to address the RNC on Thursday. Trump's Agenda 47 consists of a series of proposals his campaign issued on its website during the primary election season from December 2022 to December 2023, many of which may require congressional action, some of which could be enacted through executive orders. It is separate from the Project 2025 proposals. Trump's proposals for K through 12 schools include having parents elect school principals. Oh, wow. Cutting federal funding to any school teaching critical race theory, ending teacher tenure, creating a new credentialing body to only certify teachers who embrace patriotic values, encouraging prayer in schools, making it easier to kick out of control troublemakers out of school, supporting school districts that allow teachers to carry concealed firearms, and pushing school choice policies. Trump has proposed getting rid of existing accreditors for colleges and universities, creating new ones who impose his party's values on institutions, along with levying significant fines on colleges and universities that he believes discriminate against students.
You probably know this.
No, I don't want to hear that. Climate change, U.S. again would leave the Paris Climate Accord. The ex-president had proposed getting rid of President Joe Biden's policies restricting emissions. Trump has pledged to appoint 100 U.S. attorneys who would be aligned with his policies and investigate some left-leaning local district attorneys. Trump has vowed to invest in hiring and retraining police officers, push policies like stop and frisk, direct the DOJ to dismantle every gang, street crew, and drug network in America. I won't read the whole thing. But evidently, there's a Project 47. It's got a bunch of stuff that I guess Trump does want. And it's totally up to you whether you like those things or are scared by those things. So I'm not going to completely agree with Huckabee that this is totally debunked. But I know that an 83% debunking of Project 2025 is enough to let me believe that we can agree that a good 40% of this claim, if not more, is not true. Have a good day at work. Later, Sashi. So, again, not wanting to pontificate and say it's all a bunch of crap, but a lot of it is crap. Oh, yeah. This is the fun one. Trump does not back a federal abortion ban.
Abortion ban. He agrees with the Supreme Court that it is a state issue, and that's what the repeal of Roe v. Wade did. Now, those are just the top 10 lies.
All right. I can go into that one if you want me to, but when the gentleman debunked 83% of the lies being told about Project 2025, he also debunked that. Basically, Trump is not going to mandate a ban on abortion. He wants it to be a states' rights issue, which it's okay if you disagree with that, but that's not the same as a unilateral national ban. So there it is. Now, I have not done the fair thing and gone on to where the right silences the left, but that has been the stream. I have talked about the spiral of silence to just let Matt Cheatwood know it's a theory about how people often fear to speak out against what they perceive a majority to be, and it causes people to silence their own opinions, and often that has an impact on elections. Both sides are hypocritical. You are right. And I know I've only mostly talked about the hypocrisy of the left, but it is absolutely true. We were talking with Sci-Fi Mombi earlier. There is plenty of hypocrisy on the right as well. I am going to call it a stream. It's been one of my longer ones. Frankly, I'm probably going to have to upgrade, or I'm not going to be able to stream for a couple of weeks. And I may just do that, because I have a lot of fun streaming. All right. So let's thank the people in the chat. Call it a stream. Thank you very much, JPRPH1. I hope you had a good time with the campfire and John Paradise. Thank you for your support, your prayers, your positivity. Thank you very much, Sci-Fi Mombi. I'm so glad that you were here, and I love that there are right-wingers and left-wingers who still have the sensible nature to have a civil discussion instead of just calling each other names. I love that you're that you were here. I'm glad that you were here. I hope that if you play the rest of this, you won't be upset about the ending of it. But if you are, I can understand. Hopefully, though, you're not. Thank you very much, DJ Ronnie G, for showing up and listening to my rant. Thank you very much, Enigma Severus. Thank you very much, Tim. I know you were probably juggling between me and Netter. I kind of wish I'd been at Netter's, but you know what? I had a good time here, and I learned some things. Hopefully you guys did too. Thank you very much, Sashi, the man from the future. Thank you very much, Gorillas, Random and Censored Thoughts. Thank you very much, Connie Cleary with Fluff Chick Productions. I love those birds. I know there was at least one more. Yes, Connie Cleary, you were so kind. You came in both of your avatars. Wunderbar, you're so kind. I love this community. And lastly, but definitely not least, Matt Cheatwood. I don't know if you'll have the patience to listen to the whole thing. And I am still going to look up, I have it written down, Holodomor, Walter Duranty, and I am going to listen to that video with Waltus Altist. But for personal reasons, I wanted to talk about the spiral theory of silence. This is one of the areas where both sides are hypocritical. Matt Cheatwood says, my body, my choice, unless it's a vaccine. Yeah, agreed. And again, not to say that women don't have the right to a choice. I don't think that. I'm all about states' rights, but I absolutely understand the belief, that it's my body, it's my choice. But again, that should apply kind of across the board. If it's going to apply to one, it has to apply to all. You're not farm animals. Reference to tweet about deworming product posted by Food Administration years ago. Yeah, we talked about that one too, about the disingenuousness of media outlets when there is a National Institute of Health paper literally calling that drug a wonder drug. But yet, you're a bad person if you want to use it. Thank you very much, everyone. I know that it has been said that life is pain, and anyone that says anything otherwise is trying to sell you something. I am trying to sell you on something. I'm trying to sell you on the idea that freedom is better than slavery, liberty is better than tyranny, that you are smart enough to run your own life, make up your own mind about things as long as you get actual information instead of just a bunch of propaganda. I'm trying to sell you on the idea that while, yes, you should submit to legitimate authority that you've had a voice in choosing and that has proven that it has your best interests at heart, you should not, though, submit to tyrants or bullies. And lastly of all, I would like to let you know that you are not going mad. You are going sane in a world gone mad. Thank you all very much. Much love to everyone in the community. We made it to midnight. The blogger, what blogs at midnight, made it. Thank you for listening to this stream, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening.